Hello and welcome to another episode of No Enemy Podcast live with your host Sly. And yeah, as you can see, I'm by myself today. Will's having some personal issues, so everybody pray for him. And I can't wait for him to get back and hope he's feeling okay and everything's good. And yeah, I guess he'll tell you when he comes back what happened if he wants to. Okay. So, and other things. In other news today, we wish you well, Will. In other news today, what's happening around the world this week? Oh, guys, still going through it. Damn, we're going through it. Iran again. So, yeah, we're going to get with that. Talk about Elon, about his $1 trillion that boy is making on paper. It's on paper, guys. So, all right. So let's kind of get into it. And I want to talk about the ICE agent that they killed somebody again, guys. Yeah, so okay. So welcome back to No Enemy Live. I'm your host, Sly, as I said. And we're thinking about you, brother. Get well. But I guess I had to keep on rolling. You know, the show must go on. So tonight, guys, I want to try something different tonight, okay? I don't want to just talk about what's happening in the world. I want to get into why it's happening. Not politically, not racially, not from the left, not from the right, but from inside and out. From the place where science and spirit actually agree on something. Science and spirit. So, okay. So every single thing happening in the world right now is being driven by human beings. And human beings are having a biological experience as the man that gave me the attitude to do this show, Tom, he say we're having a biological experience. So think about what that means for a second, guys. Biological experience. You are a soul. And I believe that. Yeah, I believe that genuinely. But right now, the soul is in your body. Oop. It's okay, buddy. And the body has a brain. And that brain was built for a world that no longer exists. It was built for survival. It was built to detect threats, protect the tribe, to react to danger before you even have time to think. Scientists call it. Whoa, shit, what's wrong with it? It's okay. So scientists are calling that the amygdala, the part of your brain that fires before your rational mind even wakes up. Fear hits first. Reason comes second, guys. And at the gap between fear and reason, that's where most of the damage in the world gets done. Okay, so let's think about that. Then nobody thinks of reasons, the fears driving them. All right, so let's talk about the officer of the night and when Henry Nowak was dying in the street. You guys remember us talking about him over there in Europe? They shot him. Oh, the guy, no, not that one. The immigrant stabbed him, and the police did nothing. So he was dying in the street. Was he evil? Probably not. Was he running a biological fear experiments that is training his culture and environment that are already pre-programmed into it? Almost certainly yes. Talking about the officer. His amygdala made a split the seconds calculation who is the threat in this situation, and it got it catastrophically wrong. Yeah, poor guy. And a young man died in the gap between fear and reason. Okay. So let's think about the ICE agents in Houston this week. Shooting the Lorenzo Salgado Ario. Sorry if I mispronounced that. A 52-year-old construction worker, father of three, 30 years of building in this country. And the government admitted they got the wrong man. The wrong man. They were running so hot, so fast, so fear driven in their operation that they killed someone who had nothing to do with what they were looking for. Biology without spiritual grounding does that. It moves faster than consequences. Think about why people riot. Belfast burning, streets on fire after a stabbing. You look at the footage like that and you think, how do we do that, guys? How do humans beings do this? But the science tells you exactly how. When a group of people feel their tribe is under threat, the brain releases the same cocktail of chemicals it releases when you personally are being attacked: cortisol, adrenaline. The rational prefrontal cortex goes offline, and suddenly 1,000 individual people are operating as one biological organism reacting to a perceived threat. Nobody in the right is thinking, they're all reacting. And the spiritual traditions of every human culture, Earth, have always known this, which is why for every one of them built rituals, practices, and communities specifically designed to help human beings slow down enough to let the soul override the body. Override the body. That's what prayer does. That's what meditation does. That's what building a genuine community does. It creates the pause between fear and reaction where wisdom can actually live. And that's what we're trying to do. That's what No Enemy is trying to be. You know what I'm saying? Not just a place where we talk about what's happening in the world, how you been, what's going on, but a place where why we understand it's happening. And at the biological level and at the spiritual level, so that we can actually do something different that what our programming tells us to do. All program, guys. Back in the day, it's all been in us. Because here's the truth that both science and spirit agree on: you are more than your biology. The soul that is having this human experience right now is capable of something the amygdala, I am screwing that word up big time, will never understand. Amygdala. And that choosing to pause, choosing to understand before you react, choosing to know your enemy, really know them deeply enough that they stop being your enemy. That's the show. That's why we're here, guys. So, yeah, biological and spirit, we'll get into that a little bit. So, the title of this is the biology of chaos. So, the biology of chaos. So, let's talk about, all right, the biology of the American and Iran war. So, let's talk about that. So, what we got? Trump declared a ceasefire with Iran over the NATO summit in Turkey, and the United States launched new strikes against Iran after Tehran targeted multiple vessels in the Strait of Hormuz. Iran's supreme leader, Khamenei, the man who had been at the center of Iranian powers for decades, was assassinated and buried this week. The U.S. carried out days of bombing in Iran targets and rescinded a waiver to allow Iran to sell its oil without sanctions, while frank sanctions were imposed. Following Iranian attacks on commercial ships in the Strait of Hormuz, this is not a distant geopolitical story. This is an active military conflict between two capable powers happening right now, today, while most of America is watching the World Cup. Mexico, what happened, man? You just kept sending in crosses. That was not the way. That was not the way. So, okay, I want to talk about the biological science behind this. Okay. So, let's see. It says, with accumulating at the extreme ends is not primarily about money. Okay. It's not primarily about money of what's going on. When a human being is generally threatened, the amygdala fires when cortisol and adrenaline flood the system. The brain does something very specific. It narrows. It stops seeing complexity. It stops seeing the humanity of whoever is identifying as a threat. The prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain responsible for empathy, long term planning, and moral reasoning, goes partially offline. and the brain locks into a simple ancient program: flight, flee, or freeze. Now scale the biological response to the level of a nation state with a military, a leader whose identity tied to never appearing weak or scared, and you have the United States and Iran, two biological organisms, each running ancient threat responses, each convinced the other is the aggressor, each making decisions feeling completely rational from inside their own fear state and completely insane from the outside. So, yeah, it's crazy. So let's see what if we continue on this pattern. What the future kind of kind of says. So the Strait of Hormuz is one of the most critical waterways on Earth. What is 20% of global? It's crazy. It's a lot. The strait has fallen sharply since attacks of vessels earlier this week, with commercial shipping severely depressed. The price of oil spikes globally. Every country depends on oil, and each face an economic crisis simultaneously. Yeah. So the economies that were alleged fragile, the most of them begin to fracture. And when economies fracture, the biology of threat response kicks in. And at the population level, hunger, frightened, economically desperate people do not make calm, rational decisions. They elect whoever promises to make the fear stop. So that's called a populist moment that we're in also. And the people who promise to make their fear stop are always the people willing to do the most violent things. History has shown this pattern without a single exception. So it's going to continue if we go on the same pattern. It's going to be violent, and you're going to get people like Trump in a populist moment. He's going to say the thing. He's going to go after you if you say something. You step on his shoes, you scuff him, he's going to say something. You know what I'm saying? He's one of them guys. So now I want to think about it in the spiritual, like the spiritual dimension of it. So let's see. Every major spiritual tradition on earth has something to say about the cycle of violence and how to break it. And what is remarkable is they all say the same thing, essentially, from completely different directions. Buddhism says that violence is always rooted in ignorance, specifically the ignorance of believing that the destruction of another being will bring you peace. Mm. Christianity says that those who live by the sword die by the sword, not as a threat, but as a description of a spiritual law. Islam, the religion of Iran's leadership, contains within the concept of a greater jihad, which is not war against external enemies, but the internal struggle against the lower self, the fear-driven biological impulses that pull human into destruction. Every tradition is pointing at the same biological truth in spiritual language. The enemy is not Iran. The enemy is not America. The enemy is the unexamined fear response that has been running human beings since before we could speak. So let's let that sink in for a little bit. Yeah. But we definitely got to change these ways, man. So let's see. I got a question for you guys. So if the United States and Iran are both running biological fear programs, if both sides genuinely believe they are defending themselves, who is actually right? And does the answer to the question matter if the outcome is the same either way? That's a deep one. We're going to have to get back to that one. So think about it. Guys, do unto others as you want undone to you. As they say, I knew I screwed that one up, but treat others as you want to be treated. See the empathy, be in their shoes. I know you don't got to be in their shoes and live the way that they live, you know what I'm saying? But just come from a different side, not your eyes, a different spiritual side, So, so what's guys? Another thing. Who's Elon? We got Elon is a trillionaire on paper, guys. He's a trillion on paper. He doesn't have $1 trillion in the bank. It's on paper. So we'd have to get rid of a bunch of shit, sell a bunch of shit to get the money. So it's just crazy. But the biology of wealth. SpaceX made history. The IPO raising a record $75 billion. The company is valued at $1.77 trillion. Elon Musk became the world's first trillionaire. I don't know about first because those oil guys in Saudi, they got some money too, but they don't tell you how much they got. But we'll say Elon's the first trillionaire. Just saying. One human being now controls more wealth than the entire GDP of most nations on Earth. Think about that. Most nations on Earth. The number 1 trillion is so large that it is generally impossible for the human brain to process. If you spent $1 million every single day, it would take you 2,700 years to spend $1 trillion. Elon has that, and probably more. Yeah, that's crazy. He's got that. But he's doing a lot of things, guys. He's trying to get us off this rock in case something bad happens. We don't all have to stay here and suffer, We might have a chance, not us, but the rich people, if you got money, you know what I'm saying? Or if you can sneak on the plane or the jet like in 2012 where they stuck on that boat to get on. But fat chance, but good luck. Nope. Nobody important. So the wealth accumulation, the extreme end, is not primarily about money. It's about a dopamine. The human brain reward system built over millions of years of evolution. It releases dopamine in responses to achievement, acquisition, status. And here's the biological problem with nobody's talking about honestly. Dopamine does not create satisfaction. It creates the desire for more satisfaction. Let's read that again. It creates the desire for more satisfaction. The pleasure is always in the pursuit, not the arrival, which means the billionaires who become trillionaires does not feel 1,000 times happier when he was a billionaire. He feels the same relentless, the unease, all that stuff. The system is designed to keep you moving. And when a person has access to essentially unlimited resources to fuel the biological drive, the scale of what they pursue is crazy. Going to space, digging tunnels. I'm sure he's digging tunnels. This is also a biology of power to consider. Neuroscience researchers have shown that the experience of having power over others, the kind of structural institutional power that comes with wealth, literally changes the brain over time. It reduces the ability to accurately read other people's emotions. It reduces empathy responses. It increases tolerance in ways that can be dangerous to a powerful person, but to everyone in their sphere. This is not a moral judgment on Elon. It's a description of unchecked accountability power does to the human nervous system over time. And ancient Stoic philosophers knew this. The writers of the Bible knew this. This Lord Acton in 1887 said the phrase when he wrote, "The power tends to corrupt the absolute, power corrupts absolutely." While they were all observing without the language of neuroscience was a biological phenomenon. It was all inside of them. It's crazy that it's in us. We just feel. So now, what would happen if we continue on a level that we let these billionaires and trillionaires continue to obtain the wealth that they have? How will society react? Okay, let's see. The concentration of wealth of the level we are now seeing is not just an economic problem. It's a biological and spiritual crisis. When one person controls enough when to fund private space programs, buy social media to influence you, to influence elections, countries, shape information that billion people live inside, the checks and balances that unhealthy human communities have always required to function are gone, not weakened, gone. The question is not whether the level of wealth concentration is fair. The question is whether it happens biologically to society when the majority of people feel the game is rigged beyond any possibility of their participation. If you feel you're not involved, yeah, you feel left out. The research on this is consistent and alarming. Societies with extreme wealth inequality show higher rates of mental illness, addiction, violence, distrust, and political extremeness across the board. Makes their head go crazy. Not because poor people are inherently more violent or mentally ill, or because biological experience of feeling permanently excluded from dignity and possibility is one of the most corrosive things the human nervous system can endure. Yeah. So being excluded or being out the tribe or out of the community, not wanted, that can overwhelm people. A lot of people. That's why people need to be by themselves for a little bit to see if they can endure it. Yeah, let's see if they can endure it. It's all in your head, as they say. So let's talk about it spiritually now. Almost every spiritual tradition has something specific and urgent to say about extreme wealth. Jesus, Jesus, guys, said it easier for a camel to pass through an eye of a needle than for a rich man to enter the kingdom of God. Not because wealth is evil in itself, but because biological and spiritual effects of extreme wealth make it almost impossible to maintain the humility, the empathy, the connectedness to other human beings. That spiritual traditions across the board identify it as a foundation of meaningful life. The Buddhist concept of non attachment speaks to the same biological trap. The more the ego becomes identified with accumulation and status, the more distant it becomes from the essential nature that is shared with every other living being. Every other living being. And in Islam, the zakat, the obligation to give a portion of one's wealth to those in need, is not presented as charity, but as a spiritual obligation, a recognition that wealth held beyond sufficient is spiritually corrosive to the one who holds it. Money can be corrosive. It changes people you wouldn't imagine. I guess the question you should ask is Elon a good or bad person? It's whether any human being, regardless of their character, can accumulate $1 trillion without an accumulation causing harm. Whether a society that produces trillionaires while cutting health care for the poor is operating from its highest biological and spiritual capacity or its lowest. I would say Elon's doing good. It's all in his mind. He wants motivation. He has kids here, you know what I'm saying? He has reasons for everybody to keep on going, what he thinks should keep on going. But is he right? Probably not. But is he creating stuff that we can use and better our lives? Yes. So you got to think of it like that. And the $1 trillion, it's all on paper. You probably got like a million, 100 million, 200 million in the bank. Maybe that. But the rest is on paper. On paper. So I got a question. So, what if we collectively decide to do with this information? So, human history has faced a moment with extreme concentration of power reached a tipping point at the society. We have to make a choice. Do we reform, revolt, or collapse? Rome chose collapse. America in the 20th century, we chose reform. Now, at this time, what will this generation choose? Reform, revolt, collapse? You got to make the question, guys. And what is your personal role in that choice? And I got a spiritual question, and it's one that will stay with you guys. If you had $1 trillion tomorrow, and I mean really sit with this, okay? Don't just give a reaction answer. What would you do with it? And does your answer reveal something about what you actually believe in your life? What your life is for? Write it in the comments. Let me know your answer. So yeah, guys. If we keep letting the wealthy, but you guys, it can't be taxed. That's not gonna work. You can tax them 100% of their wealth, and they still won't work. The government spends too much money. We don't bring in enough money. They spend more than we bring in. It doesn't work. We got to stop those guys. Stop them, vote them out, Get the right people. Ask them the question of, do they want to budget the budget? Do they want to budget the budget? You know what I'm saying? Do they know about economics? Do they know what will happen if you rent freeze? What will happen? We know what will happen. We've seen it happen. It's crazy. Now, another crazy thing that happened. ICE, you guys killed the wrong guy again, man. Dehumanization. Dehumanization. So in Houston, eyewitnesses disputed the account of federal officials in the fatal shooting of a Mexican national by an ICE agent. Officials admitted they killed the wrong person. They admitted it. His name was Lorenzo Salgado Aurelio. He was 52 years old. He had worked in construction, as I said before, father of 3. He was killed during a traffic stop. The government admitted that they said. Admitted it. I'm doing a lot of work on this story, but there are no disrupting core facts. They killed the wrong man. A father who spent years building America. Decades. So, question, we got to look at it biologically again. What happened to Lorenzo has a name in psychology and neuroscience. It's called dehumanization. It is one of the most well-documented and most dangerous biological processes available to the human mind. Dehumanization is what happens when the brain socially cognition system, the neural networks that allow us to see other people as fully human, to imagine their inner life, to feel their pain as real, are suppressed. And those systems can be suppressed in very specific and predictable ways. When a group of people is consistently describing in the language of infestation, as an invasion, as an infestation, as animals, as vermin, the brain, the people hearing that language literally begin to process that targeted group differently. Brain imaging studies have shown that when subjects are shown images of people that have been conditioned to dehumanize, the areas of the brain associated with social cognition show reduced activity. The brain stops processing them as people and starts processing them as objects, as problems, as threats, to be neutralized. This is not a metaphor. This is measurable, documented, neurological processes, and it has consequences. When you train an enforcement system, whether it's the police, immigration, or your military, to operate in a maximum aggression towards a group that has been systematically dehumanized in public discourse, the biological result is predictable. The gap between a legitimate target and an innocent bystander narrows. The pause before action shortens. The internal voice that says, wait, make sure, gets quieter. A 50-year-old construction worker going about his day, shot during a traffic stop because his biology, specifically his appearance, his language, to a person being sought, was enough to trigger a response that humanity was not present enough to stop. That's deep, guys. They're all in their mind. This is the problem. Get rid of the problem. We shouldn't be thinking like that. And we all know one of the most dehumanizing 6 million Jewish people. That's dehumanizing. The nation did that. But it began with language, with newspapers, with political speeches that described Jewish people as rats, as plagues, as infestations. And that was years before the first person was even killed. All that talking in your brain, getting you wild up, took years before the first person. And we all know what happened. We all know what happened. In Rwanda, the genocide in 94, same pattern. The Tutsi people were called all kinds of names months before anything really happened. And then in 100 days, 800,000 people were murdered. Wow. 800,000 people in 100 days. Mostly with machetes. I don't know why I have such a fear of machetes. It's in me too. I'm Mexican. That should be biologically in me that I held a machete, but I don't know why I don't like it. A sword. I love swords. I got swords all over, but a machete for something, it just rings different. It's crazy. But yeah, 800,000 people. The dehumanization came first, people. Then the biology followed. The violence was the outcome. So, if we continue on this path, what does the future tell us? Lorenzo is not the first person killed, mistaken identity by immigration. We know that. A man shot in Memphis is the fourth to be killed in months. When mistakes happen once, it's a tragedy. When the same mistake happens 4 times in the same enforcement environment, it is a pattern. A pattern, guys. And a pattern is biological systems do not resolve themselves. They escalate. The question you must show is, what point does a system that consistently kills the wrong people stop being a system making mistakes and start being a system producing predictable outcomes? Because from biological standpoint, guys, a system that dehumanizes a group operate at maximum aggression towards that group and consistently produce civilian casualties is not malfunctioning. It is a functioning exactly how its input would predict. I gotta slow down a little. I'm getting a little. Take a break. So let's let it sink in, guys. The future implication of this pattern is not just about immigration, guys. It's but what happens to the society as a collective, as us. Our moral nervous system, when it normalizes the killing of innocent people as collateral damage. Every time a Lorenzo is killed, the news cycle moves on. 48 hours later, it's over. The collective empathy response of the population gets slightly more callous. The biological threshold of outrage rises, and the next time it happens, slightly fewer people feel the weight of it. And we know that happens all the time. I'm still trying to talk about the Epstein file is still out there, and nobody's talking about that no more. The biological threshold, the outrage rises, and the next time it happens, slightly fewer people feel the weight. That is called a moral disengagement, and is a psychological process by which ordinary people in ordinary societies become capable of tolerating extraordinary violence. Oof. It does not happen all at once. It happens one news cycle at a time, guys. So you listen to the news. They lie to you all the time. What do they say? It's a few own many of the news stations, the media, and they just tell you what they want you to hear. You guys remember that clip where it had like 30 different newscasters, agencies around the United States, and they all said the same thing. They all put them on the same thing, repeating the same thing. It was crazy. So that's what they're feeding you. So this is why you guys got to do information yourself, learn yourself. Treat yourself to learn, guys. Treat yourself to learn. So let's talk about the spiritual side of this. What do they say about spiritually? The spiritual traditions of the world are unanimous on this point, in a way that they are unanimous on almost nothing else. Every tradition, without exception, identifies the recognition of the divine in every human being as a foundation of ethical life. A foundation of ethical life. The Hindu greeting Namaste literally means the divine in me. Recognize the divine in you. The Christian teaching that every person is made in the image of God and God is in you is not a metaphor. It's a theological statement that every human being, regardless of their legal status, their country of origin, their language, their skin color, carries with them something sacred and inviolable. Islam teaches that to kill one innocent person is as if you have killed all of humanity. Yeah. Not one person from the right group, one innocent person, any innocent person. So Lorenzo, he was somebody's son. He had 30 years more probably working age to go. He wasn't a threat. He provided. He was not a symbol. He was a human being just like you guys, just like me. Having a biological experience on this earth. Enjoy it, guys. Enjoy this earth. The same biological experience every person listening to the show right now is having. And the system that killed him was operating at a frequency of fear and dehumanization so high that his humanity was not visible enough to stop it. His eyes didn't look into their soul and tell him, don't hurt him. Eyes don't lie, guys. Immigration and enforcement. Let's see. Can they operate effectively without dehumanizing the people it targets? That's a question. Has any society in human history successfully built that? A system where law maintain effectiveness and full recognition of humanity? I don't know. Have we ever encountered it? What does that tell you about the relationship between systems of power and the human biology that runs them? Yeah, it's a different time, guys. It's a different time in this time. That's how I feel now. Since this guy left, that's all I feel is empathy. It's crazy. I still have that inner me that's trying to always fight. and not care and not give a fuck about nothing. But since he's gone, it all changed. And it's crazy a dog did that. Not a human. Not a human. So, in every story we talked about tonight, guys, it's the same story told in three different ways. Iran and America are two biological organisms running an ancient threat. A response programs that were designed for survival in a world where the most dangerous weapon was a spear. And now those same programs are running inside bodies that control nuclear weapons and AI. AI can be good for us though, man. It's gonna be good. I'm an AI guy, like I said. I've been saying it. I'm gonna keep saying it. You gotta adapt, guys. We gotta adapt to the things going on now. Adapt, adapt, adapt. Don't just stay in your own same rut. You know what I'm saying? Get out there, do something. Have fun, man. Enjoy this damn life. It's short. Don't be mad. Because when you're mad, you're just doing a biological thing in your head, making yourself be mad in that situation, in that time, in that moment you're in. It's not worth it. I know you're going to get mad. Everybody gets mad. We all get mad. That first thought is anger. What are you going to do with that second thought? You can change that second thought. Elon Musk is a human being whose biology was shaped by the same evolutionary forces as every other human being on Earth. The same dopamine system, the same drive for status, security, wealth, recognition, acceptance, want. But whose access to resources has grown so far beyond any natural limit that the biological guardrails that kept human ambition in check for most of history simply do not apply to him anymore. That's crazy. He can do whatever. You can't get away from health, though. What Steve Jobs say? You can't buy his health. And Lorenzo Salgado was a man whose humanity was rendered invisible by a system running on a biology of fear and dehumanization. A system that moved faster than consequences and slower than accountability. Accountability, that's the word we need to be pushing now. People need to take accountability. Different examples, huh? Okay. The teen takeovers, accountability to the parents not watching their teens, 14, 15, 16-year-olds out on the street. Don't get me wrong. I was 12, 13, 14 out in the street, but I wasn't going to tear up all your shit. I was just robbing. Still bad, but just doing my thing, doing dumbass drugs, not even fucking with people, but still on the street. But I wasn't hurting nobody, just myself pretty much. So the three stories we talked about tonight, guys. One, diagnosis. The biological experience of being a human has not caught up to the world that human beings have built. Our brains were designed for tribes of 150 people, for threats we could see with our eyes, for decisions that played out over days or over seasons. We are now running those same brains inside a world of 8 billion people. That's a lot of people, guys, and it's just growing. Weapons of mass destruction, artificial intelligence, $1 trillion concentration of power, and information systems designed to maximize fear because fear generates engagement, guys. Listen to that again. Fear generates engagement. We are all ancestral hardware running in a world we were never built for. And the only force in human history that has ever successfully bridged that gap, the only thing that has ever helped human beings consistently transcend their biological programming and choose something higher, is what every spiritual tradition calls by different names, but points to with. But they call them different names, but they point to the same finger. Love, consciousness, the oneness, God. Awareness, the soul's capacity to observe the body's fear response and choose differently. The ancient Stoics called it reason. The Buddhists called it mindfulness. Christians call it the Holy Spirit. Scientists call it the prefrontal cortex activation. They are all describing the same thing. The part of you that is more than your biology. The part of you that can watch yourself be afraid and choose not to act from the fear. And guys, that's what this show's about. That's what No Enemy Live is about. I'm trying to build in every episode, the cause and effect, not just a place to talk about the news. It's going to be a community of people who are developing the capacity together. Do it together, guys. And are practicing the pause between stimulus and response. Who are choosing to understand before they react. Who are building something that biology of fear cannot destroy, but is rooted in something deeper than biology, guys. And that's this show. That's what we're trying to do. That's our kind of mission here. We got to get to the root. Why do people do these things? It's in us. You got to choose. Trying to build in everybody. Not just a place to talk about the news, but a community of people who are developing and are practicing and pause between stimulus and response. Who are building something that biology of fear cannot destroy because it is rooted in something deeper than biology. So, and that's why we're here, guys. Even when Will's not here, everybody keep him in your thoughts. And we can't wait to have you back, Will. And if you want to tell your story, go right ahead. It's up to you. So the world feels like it's coming apart at the seams, guys, because the seams have always been held together, not by government, our systems, our institutions, but by individual human beings who decided that their highest capacity was more powerful than their lowest impulse. Be that person, guys. No enemy. No enemy. So that's about it, guys. That's about what I had tonight. I'm on my only solo roll right now, but he'll be back. I'm not sure next week. We'll see. If not, I'll be here, same channel, same time. So if you get anything, answer those questions, guys. Put it in the comments. Let me read them. Let's see what you got. Let's see how you feel. And everything's in you, inside. Choose different. Choose to be different. Be that person, guys. No enemy. Live. All right, guys, that's your show this week. I'm glad you joined. So, join me. And we'll see you next week. And everybody, stay good. Stay good. Be happy. Live this life. Have a good night.